Chapter 12, in which famous scholars feast at Oriel Throat Lake, and a swordsman calls with a human head. A man with my humble capacities is not good enough for gentlemen like you, who admire worth so much, Yang Chi-chung told the Lau brothers. But I have a friend called Chuan Wu-young from Haoshan County, who lives in the hills. If you invite him here to talk with you, you will see that he has the wisdom of ancient statesmen and the learning of scholars of old, which make him unrivaled among contemporaries. If he is such a remarkable man, said Lao Feng, much impressed, why don't we go pay our respects to him? Suppose we hire a boat to go tomorrow, and ask Mr. Yang to accompany us, suggested Lao Shan. Just then the gatekeeper hurried in with a red visiting card. The newly appointed roadway officer, Mr. Wei, has arrived and sent in his respects, he announced. He has brought a letter from the first master at the capital and says he would like to speak to you. Nephew, said Lao Feng to Chu Hsienfu, will you entertain Mr. Yang while we see to this visitor? We shall not be long. They went to change their clothes before going to the reception hall. Mr. Wei entered in full official dress, and after greeting each other, they sat down in the places of guest and host. When did you leave the capital, sir? Asked the brothers. We have not yet congratulated you on your distinguished appointment, but you are already honoring us with your presence. On the 3rd of last month, I received my appointment in the capital, replied Mr. Wei. And that same day I had the privilege of meeting your brother who gave me this letter for you. Hence I presumed to come to pay my respects. He presented the letter with both hands. The older brother opened the letter and read it, then handed it to his younger brother. It concerns the work of surveying, he told Mr. Wei. Do you mean to sit to work, sir, so soon after your appointment? Yes, replied Mr. Wei. This morning I received an order from my superior instructing me to lose no time. So today I have come to trouble you to inform me of the full extent of your honorable uncle's graveyard. For when I go there to pay my respects, I shall summon the local runners to examine the boundary carefully, to see that these ignorant peasants do not cut firewood nearby or trespass on your property. I shall issue a warning to them. Will you then be leaving at once, sir? Asked Lao Chan. In 3 or 4 days, after reporting to my superior, I shall set out on my surveying trip. In that case, said Lao Feng, we beg you to dine with us tomorrow in our humble house. And when you visit our poor mountainous graveyard, we shall naturally accompany you. During this conversation, the tea had been changed 3 times, and now the roadway officer bowed and took a ceremonious leave of the brothers. When they had seen him off, they removed their official robes and returned to the library, very much upset. Something like this would happen, they sighed. Just as we were about to see off Mr. Chuan, this roadway officer comes to start measuring our estates. Tomorrow we have to entertain him to a meal, and we shall have to accompany him when he goes to measure our uncle's graveyard. That means we must postpone going to Hisao Chan. What's to be done? How you 2 gentlemen thirst after talent, exclaimed Yang Chi-chung. But if you are so eager to meet Mr. Chuan, there is no need to go yourselves. You can write a letter to which I will add a note, and we will ask one of your honorable servants to deliver it to Mr. Chuan in the hills, inviting him to pay you a visit. He will be only too glad to accept. I'm afraid Mr. Chuan may wonder at our presumption, said Lao Chan. Official business has a way of piling up, said Yang. If you don't do this, you'll always be longing to meet him without ever being able to do so. That is right, agreed Chu. My uncles may never find a free day to visit Mr. Chuan. But if you write an invitation and send a reliable man to deliver it with Mr. Yang's letter, I don't think Mr. Chuan will be offended. Then and there the matter was settled. They prepared various presents, then ordered Xian Chui's son, Huan Cheng, to take the gifts and letters to Hisao Shan. Acting on his master's instructions, Huan Cheng boarded a boat to Hangzhou. And when the boatman saw that his baggage was neat and his appearance good, they invited him into the inner cabin. There were already 2 men there in scholars' caps, whom Huan Chen greeted. Then he sat down. After the evening meal, each unrolled his bedding and slept. The next day, since there was nothing to do on board, they started to talk, and Huan Cheng heard the scholars discussing Hisao Shan County. Travelers who meet on a boat always address each other as passenger. So now he asked, "May I inquire your honorable district, passengers?" "We are from He Sao Shan," replied the scholar with a beard. "Do you know a certain Mr. Chuan there?" There is no one of that name in He Sao Shan," replied the younger of the two. "I believe his name is Chuan Wu Young. "Chuan Wu Young," repeated the younger passenger. "We have no scholar there by that name." "Can it be that fellow?" said the bearded man. "That would be a joke." They turned to the youth. Then turning to the youth, he asked, "Don't you know about him? Let me tell you then. He lives in the mountains, and all his ancestors were peasants, but his father made enough money to send him to a country school to study. He studied until he was 17 or 18, when a heartless village teacher did him a bad turn by insisting that he should go in for the examinations. Later on, his father died, but this fellow was good for nothing. He could neither till the land nor trade. He just sat at home eating until he'd eaten up all his property. He took the examinations for more than 30 years, but never even passed the lowest because he couldn't talk sense. He used to live in a tutelary temple, where he took a few pupils, and every year he prepared for the examinations. In that way, he was just able to make ends meet. But then he was unlucky again, for the other year he met the accountant of a huge house salt shop in Newmarket, an old woman called Yang, who came in to collect bills. This Mr. Yang, who put up in the temple, was a complete lunatic, gabbling all the time about astronomy, geography, and the arts of government. When Chuan heard this, he became possessed by a devil and lost his senses completely. He stopped taking the examinations and became a hermit. But once he became a hermit, students stopped going to him. So now he has nothing to live on except what he cheats out of the country people. We are such good friends, there should be no difference between us, he tells them. What's yours is mine, and all that's mine is yours. This is his formula. You surely can't deceive many people that way, said the young man. Everything he possesses he has tricked out of people, retorted the man with the beard. Still, since we belong to the same village, I won't say any more. Then he asked Huang Chen, "Why did you inquire about this man?" "For no particular reason," replied Huang Chen. "I was just asking." But he was thinking, our third and fourth masters are a queer couple. So many high officials and magistrates come to pay their respects. Yet they still feel they haven't enough friends and sent me all this way, for no reason, to find such a swindler. Just then he saw a boat pass with two maids in it who looked very much like the two maids in the Liu family. He gave a start and hastily leaned out to stare at them, only to find he was mistaken. After that, the two other passengers did not talk to him anymore. A few days later, Xuan Cheng changed boats and reached He Sao Shan, where, after half a day's search, he found in a valley a miserable thatched hovel with white paper pasted on the door. He knocked and went in. Chuan Wu Yun was in mourning, with a big white cloth cap on his head. When he found out why Huan Cheng had come, he put him up in his back room on a straw pallet, entertaining him that evening to beef and alcohol. The next day he wrote a reply. "I am most grateful for your master's regard," he told Huan Cheng, "but I am in mourning now and cannot leave my home. Go back and convey my respects to your masters and to Mr. Chang, and tell them that I accept their magnificent presents. In another 20 days, when 100 days have passed since my mother's death, I shall come to call on your masters. I have put you to a lot of trouble. Please take these 2 cents of silver to buy some wine." He handed a small paper packet to Huang Cheng, who accepted it. "Thank you, Mr. Chuan," he said. "I hope you will come to the city on the day that you have promised, so that my masters will not wait for you in vain." "Of course," replied Chuan Wu Young, and escorted him outside. Huan Cheng boarded another boat and took Chuan Wu Yong's letter to the masters in Huchao. They could not help feeling disappointed, but they changed the name of a large and most luxurious pavilion behind the library, calling it after Mr. Chuan, to show that they were waiting for him to come and stay there. They lodged Yang Chi-chung in a room behind this pavilion. Yang was old and asthmatic and needed someone to attend to him during the night, so he sent for his second son. And this dolt, it goes without saying, was drunk every night. About a month later, Yang sent another letter to Chuan, urging him to come at once. And on the receipt of this, Chuan put together a few things and took a boat to Huchao. He came ashore outside the city still in morning clothes. some bidding on his left shoulder and the big cloth sleeve on his right arm flapping as he pushed his way clumsily down the road. When he crossed the drawbridge into the city, the road was packed. But he did not know that in order not to hold up traffic, pedestrians going out of the city must keep to the left, and those going in to the right. He charged forward, knocking into everything in his way. Now a woodcutter who had just sold his firewood was walking out of the city with a pointed pole over his shoulder, when Chuan Wu Young barged into him, and Chuan's tall morning cap was impaled on his pole. Pacing with lowered head, the woodcutter continued oblivious on his way. As for Chuan, he gave a start and rubbed his head, then discovered that his morning cap had vanished. Catching sight of it on the pole, he waved frantically. "That's my hat," he shouted. The woodcutter, however, was walking quickly and did not hear. Chuan was not used to walking in cities, and the fact that he was flustered made him blunder along more awkwardly than ever, without looking where he was going. He covered one bowshot when he collided so violently with a seat and chair that he nearly knocked the officer seated in it right out. The officer demanded furiously who he was, and ordered the two runners in front to tie him up. Yet instead of admitting that he was in the wrong, Chuan went on shouting and gesticulating. Then the officer alighted from his chair to question him, and the runners shouted to him to kneel down, but he simply glared at the officer and refused to kneel. By this time, 60 or 70 people had gathered round to watch, and out of his crowd stepped a man with big eyes and a few brown hairs on his chin, wearing a military cap and black silk jacket. He walked up to the officer. "Please don't take offense, Your Excellency," he said. "This man is an honored guest of the Lau family. Although he has knocked into you, I am afraid if you punish him, the Lau gentleman may hear of it, and that would not look good." The occupant of the seat and chair was Mr. Wei, the newly appointed roadway officer. So when he heard this, he simply uttered a warning to save his own face, then mounted his chair and rode away. Chuan Wu Young saw that his champion was an old friend, a man skilled in the military arts and known as Iron-Armed Chang. Iron-Armed Chang made Chuan sit down in his tea house to recover his breath, and they drank some tea. "The other day, when I went to your house to offer my condolences, your servants told me you had received an invitation from the Lao gentleman," said Chang. Why do I find you knocking about by yourself outside the city gate?" "The Lau brothers invited me a long time ago," replied Chuan, "but I'm only just on my way there. I didn't expect to bump into an official who would make so much trouble for me. Thank you for helping me out. Why don't you come with me to the Lau family?" The two of them proceeded together to the Lau family. The gatekeeper was taken aback by the sight of a man in mourning, minus his white cap, followed by such a martial-looking fellow. This strange couple clamored to see his masters, but would not give their names. "Your masters have been expecting us for a long time," they insisted. When he refused to announce them, they started bawling and shouting at the gate. "Ask Mr. Yang to come out," they roared. The gatekeeper had to obey them. Yang was shocked to see the state Chuan was in. "Haven't you even got a hat?" he asked with a frown. He made them sit down on a bench in the gatehouse while he hurried in to fetch an old scholar's cap for Chuan. "Who is this stalwart?" he inquired next. "This is the famous Iron-Armed Chang of whom I was always telling you." "I have long hoped to meet you," said Yang. The three of them went in together, and they told him of the trouble they had just had at the city gate. "You had better not mention it to the Lau gentleman," he advised them. That day, the Lau brothers happened to be out, so the visitors followed Yang into the library, where they washed their faces, had a meal, and were well looked after by the servants. When the two brothers returned from a feast that evening and found them in the library, they expressed regret at having been unable to meet earlier and pointed to the pavilion to show how they had just looked forward to Chuan Yuang's arrival. The fact that Chuan had brought a swordsman with him convinced them that he was an exceptional man, and they ordered another feast to be spread. Chuan sat in the seat of honor with Yang and Iron-Armed Chang opposite, while the brothers acted as host. During the feast, they asked Iron-Armed Chang how he came by his name. "When I was young and strong," Iron-Armed Chang told them, "my friends, for a wager, asked me to lie in the middle of the road and stretch out my arms for a cart to pass over it. An ox cart came rumbling along, weighted at least 4,000 or 5,000 caddies. Its wheels passed right over my arm, but I simply flexed my muscles. There was a clatter and the cart was thrown several yards off. When they looked at my arm, it wasn't even bruised, so they gave me this nickname. The elder Lao clapped his hands. "After hearing of such a feat, we should consume a whole gallon of wine," he declared. "Let us all change to big cups." Chuan Wu Young refused, however. "A mourner cannot drink wine," he said. Yang Chi-chung protested. "The old and sick need not observe the conventions," he quoted. "I notice you eating quite heartily just now. So if you drink a cup or two, it won't matter." "Your remark is ill-founded, sir," reported Chuan. "When the ancients speak of fasting, they mean abstinence from such things as garlic, leeks, and coriander, which, of course, I do not eat. In the same way, wine is absolutely forbidden." "Naturally, we shall not press you," said Lao Chan, hastily calling for tea. "I know most of the military arts," announced Iron-Armed Chang. "I can fight with 18 different weapons on foot and 18 different weapons on horseback. I can use the whip, the mace, the axe, the hammer, the sword, the spear, the saber, and the halberd. In fact, I may be said to have mastered all of these. But I am unlucky in my temperament, for whenever I see injustice done, I must draw my sword to avenge the injured. I cannot resist fighting with the strongest in the empire, and whenever I have money, I give it to the poor. Thus I have ended up without a home, and that is how I come to your honorable district. This is exactly what one would expect of a hero," exclaimed Lao Chan. "Since our friend Chang has mentioned the military arts," said Chuan, "I might add he is seen at his best in a sword dance. Why don't you gentlemen ask him to give a performance?" Delighted, the Lao brothers ordered servants to bring Iron-Armed Chang a fine old sword which gleamed brightly when he unsheathed it beneath the lamp. He took off his jerkin, tightened his belt, picked up the sword, and stepped out into the courtyard. The others followed him. The brothers bade him wait until lamps were lit, and at the word of command 12 young servants came out, each with a candlestick, and candles were lit on each side of the courtyard. Iron-Armed Chang's sword whirled up and down, right and left, moving faster and faster through many figures till nothing but a brilliant glitter could be seen, with no man in sight, and silvery serpents seemed to be darting in all directions. At the same time, an icy wind made the onlookers shiver. Chuan took a copper basin from a stand and told the servant to fill it with water and splatter it over Iron-Armed Chang. But not a drop reached him. Presently, however, he uttered a great cry. The brilliant glitter vanished, and there he stood with the sword in his hand, not in the least flushed or winded. Everyone applauded. Then they drank till nearly dawn and put the guests up in the library, for now Chuan Wu Young and Iron-Armed Chang were honorable guests in the Prime Minister's house. One day Lao Feng told them, "Soon we must organize a big party and invite our honorable guests to the lake." The weather was growing warm, and Chuan Wu Young's thick white gown was becoming too hot, so he decided to pawn it in order to buy some blue cloth to make a gown for the party. He did this without consulting the Lao brothers, entrusting the business to Iron-Armed Chang, who pawned the gown for 500 coins, which Chuan put behind his pillow. He spent the day in the pavilion named after him, and that evening, when he went back to his room to sleep, he looked for his 500 coins but could not find a single one. Knowing that no one else had been in the room except Yang Chi-chung's foolish son, they liked to loiter there. Chuan went straight to the gatehouse. He found the young man there sitting talking nonsense. "I want a word with you," called Chuan. "What do you want, uncle?" The young man was already drunk. "Did you see the 500 coins by my pillow?" "Yes." "Where have they gone?" I took them to gamble with this afternoon and lost. I still have about 12 coins left, which means I use them to buy alcohol." "What extraordinary behavior! How could you take my money to gamble with?" "Why, uncle, aren't you and I really one? What's yours is mine, and all that's mine is yours. What difference is there?" Then turning on his heel, the youth rushed out. Chuan glared furiously after him, but dared not say a word. He had to put up with the affront. And after this, Chuan and Yang were not on good terms. For Chuan said Yang was a fool, and Yang said Chuan was a lunatic. But when Lao Feng saw that Chuan had nothing to wear, he made him a present of a light blue silk gown. The brothers invited guests and hired 2 big boats. The cooks prepared a feast, and they filled another boat with attendants, and yet another with musicians and singers. This was the middle of the 4th month, when the weather was clear and warm, so all the guests were wearing summer clothes and carrying fans. Although it could not be called a large party, they had collected quite a number of people. There were the 3rd and 4th Lao brothers and Chu Hsian-fu, the scholar Niu Pu-yu, the instructor Yang Chi-chung, the scholar Chuan Wu Young, the gallant Iron-Armed Chang, and the diviner Chen Ho-fu. Mr. Liu had also been asked, but had declined the invitation. However, in addition to the 8 guests, there was also Yang Chi-chung's idiot son, making 9 in all. Niu Puyu chanted poems, Ainam Chang performed a sword dance, Chin Ho-fu cracked jokes, the Lau brothers appeared extremely cultured, and Chu Hsian-fu extremely elegant, while Yang Chi-chung looked venerable and Chuan Yu-young's eccentric, and Chuan Wu-young eccentric. Thus the party was unique. The cabin windows on both sides were open so that they could hear music from the small boats as they drifted towards the lake. And presently a feast was spread, and a dozen servants in white gowns and tall caps poured wine and served the dishes. It goes without saying that the food was rare, the wine and tea were fragrant, and they drank till the moon was up. Then 50 or 60 lanterns were lit on the small boats and were reflected with the moonlight in the water, making it as bright as day. The music sounded even more clearly in the stillness, its strains echoing for miles around, so that watchers on shore stared at the revelers as if they were immortals, and none but envied them. Thus they boded all night. When Chu Hsian-fu went in to see his father-in-law the next morning, Mr. Liu said, "Your uncle should spend their time quietly at home, studying to increase the reputation of their family instead of mixing with people like this. Such lordly ostentation is hardly proper." Chu repeated this to his uncles the following day, and Lao Feng gave a loud laugh. "How can your father-in-law be so vulgar?" he asked. While he was speaking, the gatekeeper came in. "Mr. Liu has been promoted to the post of reader," he announced. "The imperial decree has been issued and the bulletin has just arrived. You are requested to go and offer congratulations." Upon hearing this, Chu Hsian-fu hurried home to congratulate his father-in-law. That evening, however, Chu sent a servant flying to his uncles with bad news. When Mr. Liu received the imperial decree, the whole family was delighted, and he ordered a feast to celebrate. But suddenly his phlegm overwhelmed him and he lost consciousness. The Lau brothers were begging to go over at once. Without waiting for the seat and chairs, the brothers hurried across. But when they reached Mr. Liu's gate, they heard loud sobbing and knew that he was dead. All the relatives had arrived and were discussing whom to appoint from the clan as his heir. Then the funeral began, and pale and haggard with sorrow, Chu Hsian-fu performed his duties like a good son-in-law. Several days later, a letter arrived from the eldest Lau brother in the capital, and the third and fourth brothers discussed their reply together. It was towards the end of the month, and the moon had not yet risen. The 2 brothers sat up, talking by candlelight until nearly midnight, when they heard a thud on the roof, and a blood-stained man dropped from down the eaves and carrying a leather bag. By the light of the candle, they recognized Ainam Chang. The 2 brothers were very startled. "What brings you, friend, to our inner chamber in the middle of the night?" they asked. "And what have you in that leather bag?" "Please be seated, gentlemen," said Ainam Chang, "and let me explain. During my life, I have had one benefactor and one enemy. I have hated my enemy for 10 years without having an opportunity to kill him. But today my chance came, and I have his head here. Inside this bag is a bloody human head. But my benefactor is some distance away, and I need 500 taels to repay him for his kindness. Once this debt of honor is paid, my heart will be at rest, and I can devote the rest of my life to you who have treated me so well. Believing that only you 2 gentlemen could help me, for no other are so understanding, I made bold to call on you tonight. But if you are unwilling to help, then I must go far away and never see you again." Taking up the leather bag, he started off. "Don't do anything rash, friend," cried the brothers, now thoroughly frightened. 500 taels is a trifle. But what about this bag?" "That's easy," replied Ainam Chang with a laugh. "I can remove all traces by means of certain arts which I know. But that will have to wait for the moment. If you will give me the 500 taels, I shall come back in 4 hours, take out the object in the leather bag, and apply a magic powder to it, so that it changes instantly to water and not a hair remains. You gentlemen might prepare a feast and invite guests to watch me." Tremendously impressed, the 2 brothers hurried inside to fetch him 500 taels. Then Ainam Chang put the bag down on the steps, stored the silver about his person, thanked them, and vaulted on the eaves. All they heard was the clatter on the tiles as he vanished like lightning. The night was very still, and the moon had just risen to shed its rays on the leather bag on the steps with its bloody human head. But to know what happened to the head, you must read the chapter which follows.